Hi friends. So in today's video we are going to discuss about some of the young players, the young generation and their performances versus the big three. Now we have seen them a lot of times. Now they are not necessarily the next generation, they are the current generation. They have been playing well, they have been knocking on the door for a while now. Recently, we saw Dominic Thiem win his first Grand Slam title. Now, he didn't have to face Djokovic or Federer or Nadal, but still, it happens once in a while when Federer or Nadal or Djokovic are not there in a Grand Slam, and I think it was an opportune moment for Thiem to take the golden opportunity and win the slam, and he did absolutely that. So I think congratulations to him for winning the match and the tournament. Now, when we talk about the young generation, there are a lot of good players, and it's not like Thiem, has started playing well recently. He has been knocking on the door for a lot of years now, and recently he got the success. So the question arises in the minds of all the fans and all the critics as well, that what is it that the young players are lacking, and why are they not successful against the big three, even though all the members of the big three are 30 plus and they are at the tail end of their careers. Still they are able to win the big slams, also the Masters 1000 and all the big tournaments. So what is it that is lacking in the young players, that they are not able to win in these big tournaments? So in this video we'll try to analyze some of those points. We'll also discuss about some of the players who have the potential to beat these big three guys, and then we'll also talk about the qualities and characteristics that a player should actually have in order to beat these three guys. So let's start with the factors because of which these guys have been losing to the big three. I think the one of the most important factors is the strategy that they bring on the court towards these matches and against the big three. Because if you look at, for example, a player of the caliber of Shapovalov, for example. Now he has a great one-handed backhand. He's a lefty. He has a good forehand, a good serve. He's tall. He moves well, and he can also volley at the net. So then, by looking at this player on paper, you will feel like he's a young player who has got all the shots in the book. He plays well, and he's fit as well. So then, what is it that is stopping him from beating one of these guys who are actually 30 plus and are at the tail end of their careers, as well as they have a lot of pressure because every match that they play, every Grand Slam that they play, the big three, they know that this might be their last Grand Slam, or they have a lot of pressure because they are also chasing records. So then I think it should provide more opportunity to these young guys to be able to beat those big three. But still, it hasn't happened so. So then, what can be the reason? So the only reason I can think about, or the main reason, is the strategy. Because I mean, all these players like Shapovalov or Dominic Thiem or Zverev, for that matter, they have their strengths, they have their weaknesses, but it's not like they are lacking any specific shot in the book, or they are lacking any technicality in their game. They all play well. They all are consistent players. But there's something that's lacking, and I think that is the strategy that they bring on court against these big guys. So I think if you play against Djokovic, you need to have a different strategy. If you play against Nadal, you need to have a different strategy, and same applies to Federer as well. Now, when we see these young guys, they play their own game. They try to play to their strengths, which is good. But then at the same time, when you know that you are competing against the best of all time, the greatest of all time, so you have to sort of change your strategy a little bit so that you can attack or you can exploit any of the weaknesses that the big three have. Now, even the big three don't have any weaknesses, but because they are 30 plus, it definitely opens some of the areas or provides some of the opportunities to the young guys to explore different areas, different strategies, and try out different things. Because even though they are young players and they have pressure on them as well, and people are now expecting them to make a breakthrough and beat these big guys, but still I think comparatively they have less pressure on them, and they can play freely, at least on the big points. So on the big points, if you are a member of the big three, definitely you will have some pressure because this might change the match. You are might also be worried about your fitness because it's a five setter. The opponent is a young opponent who is fresh, who is fit, who is playing fearless tennis. So now, if you know that your opponent is going to play fearless tennis and he is going to go for a winner, then you will try to take control of the point by being aggressive yourself. And I think that point gives some opportunity to the opponent that there's a 50-50% chance that you might miss a ball as well. But when you see the big guys like Nadal, Federer, and Djokovic, even if they play a consistent point, a rally point, sometimes the opponents don't, go for their shots, and they are happy rallying, and they sort of hope that one of these big three guys will miss a ball in an important point, and that just doesn't happen. So I think that needs to change. The strategy has to be like going for the victory, going for the winner, and of course playing to your strengths. It's not like you have to hit the first ball in the rally for a winner, but you have to have that mindset that they need to play the point to win the point, to go to the net and finish off the volley. Now, one more thing, since I mentioned the volley, I want to talk about is a lot of players, when you see them go to the net, they actually don't look like they are going to volley. It's like a fake volley that they are trying to do. So they go to the net, they approach the net, and then they do the split step way before they actually need to do it. So what happens is they are almost in the middle of the court, and it opens both the sides for the opponent. So if the opponent is hitting a good passing shot, whether it's down the line or whether it's cross court, because you are in the middle of the court, you are nowhere near to the net to close a volley, to hit a volley. It's very likely that you lose the point, right? And because you're so you need to understand your whole mindset. Why are you approaching the net? Is your aim to just scare the opponent so that he misses the shot, or your aim is to ask the question the opponent that I am at the net, I am covering one of the sides, can you hit on the other side or not? So I think that should be the appropriate question that these guys need to ask when they come to the net, instead of having a fake approach just to come to the net to scare the opponent, because these big three guys are not going to get scared. They know their target, they know how to hit the passing shot. So you have to be at the net, and you have to pick a side that you think is the most easiest side for your opponent to hit, and then let the big three hit a difficult shot, let the big three hit a perfect passing shot. If they are able to hit it, then it's fine, of course, well played. But most of the times it still gives you enough margin for error, enough margin for victory if you are facing the big three. So I think strategy, as I mentioned, is one of the point. Then second is also looking at the strength and the weaknesses of the opponent. So even if, yeah, your forehand is your strength and your backhand is your strength, but if you know that a player like Djokovic doesn't like slice and dice, he wants to have a rhythm sort of a game, he wants to hit the ball at a constant pace, then you need to be able to hit a slice, or maybe at least vary the pace in your forehand and backhand so that he is troubled a little bit. Because if you are a consistent player like it's Morpheus, or maybe another consistent player like David Ferrer, then we have Schwartzman as another consistent player. So and Davidenko. So all these players, if you see, these are good baseline players who rally well. But if they play against Djokovic, they have to try something different, because Djokovic definitely is better than them in the rally category, on especially on hard courts. So you have to try something different, because even if you're playing your best, you will still need Djokovic to play badly to win the match, because Djokovic also is a very good rally player and he's better than you. So, in terms of strategy and analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of the opponent, they need to be able to figure out that, okay, this is my strength, I'm a good rally player, but I know that that guy is better than me, that guy is one of the big three, that guy is one of the greatest of all time. So I need to try something different, I need to have some sort of a different strategy when I play these shots, or when I go into a match. I need to have that kind of a mindset that I need to try something different. And of course, I talked about the fearlessness. So even if they are young, I mean, they don't have that much pressure as the big three have. Of course, they have some pressure because maybe they will not get an opportunity to play against these big guys, because these big guys, may not play for many more years. But still, I think they are playing well. So in important points, and I really appreciate Nick Kyrgios, because he has that sort of mindset that he goes big on big points. So if you see him like 5-6 on a tie break or 6-5 in a tie break, and he just gives it a try, whether it's his second serve or whether it is his forehand. He just goes for the winner, and many times he is successful, and that is why he has been able to beat these guys on big occasions as well. So I think that sort of mindset should be there if you are a young player and you're trying to beat the big three. That on important points you need to be able to step up and go for the winner instead of waiting for the big three to miss, because that eventually the big three understand that okay, you are not willing to take the chance, so they sort of realize, they get a breathing space. They know that okay, this player is waiting for my error, so I have things in still in my control. If I use my slice or if I don't use my backhand, if it's not working, still I can somehow manage the point, manage the game. But if you know that your opponent is just waiting to hit a winner, then you have to hit a winner yourself, otherwise you are just hoping that he misses, and many a times that doesn't happen. The basic example, the more example, specific example is of Federer. If you see Federer's matches against Songa in 2011 Wimbledon, then you again see his match against Raonic, as well as his match against Anderson in Wimbledon, as well as against Del Potro in US Open 2009. So I gave you like three or four examples. You can see the match. So whenever these guys started hitting winners, Federer was somehow hoping that these guys won't be able to continue that for like the end of the match, and then somehow Federer will be able to pull it off. But that didn't happen because these guys just kept hitting, kept going for winners. And one thing you need to understand, that if these guys go for winners and they are successful in hitting them, it actually increases their confidence, and they go for winners more and more. So it's really difficult to come back in a match because you are also playing a sort of a mental battle out there. And if you are one of the big three, and you know that your opponent is playing well, you need to do something so that their mental strength breaks down, instead of just waiting for them to miss. Now Federer has made this mistake a lot of times, and then it has cost him the match. Even when he was up 2 sets to love, still he has ended up losing the match because he just sort of waited for them to miss. uh, Even though I would say his shots were not working, but I think the more probable approach which Nadal and Djokovic take is they go for the winner themselves, and they are okay to lose, but at least they go for the different tactics that they have, and instead of relying on the opponent that he's hitting winners right now, but maybe after like a few games he might not be able to do that. So I think that should not be the strategy. If we need to be the player who has the control. So I think that's one of the strategy that the young players should also have. And then of course the belief. So when we say a lot of guys say that since they are young, they have nothing to lose when they play against the big three. That's not the case, because if you see the big three, for example, if you see their beginning of the career, so if you see the match against Federer versus Sampras in Wimbledon 2001, and then you can also see the matches of Nadal against Federer in French Open 2005, as well as you can see Djokovic's matches against Nadal and Federer in his early days. You never, you can see and you can never know that these guys are feeling like they don't have any pressure, because if you see Federer's match against Sampras, you can definitely see that Federer was under a lot of pressure. It was a tough 5 set match, and Federer was thinking to win the match at all times, right? So I think that is one thing that the young players also need to understand, that even though they have less pressure, but that's a golden opportunity. I mean, you have one of the greatest players of all time as your opponent. They are 30 plus, and you have all the technical aspects of your game working for you. Now it's the point to be fearless, of course, but also they need to be careful that they don't just let go this opportunity. So sometimes we see some of the young players who just straight away go for winners, and they keep missing the balls, and they lose like very badly, like 6-1, 6-1, 6-1, because they just kept going. And later on they say that they are still very young, and it was my shot was not working, my forehand was not working, and I definitely I have nothing to lose, I can still, I have many more chances, I'd like to improve. So of course they will have chances to improve, but having said that, if you have a match of a 5 set and you can see that one of your strategies is not working, the ideal way would be to change the different strategies, so that at least at the end of the match you are sure that okay, yes, I've tried everything, but I was not able to succeed. None of the shots were working, or even if they were, the opponent was too good. So that sort of satisfaction you can get if you have applied all the strategies. So the belief and the strategy, and as well as analyzing the strengths and weaknesses of the opponents. I think that is something that the young players need to focus on instead of only their technical part of the game and their fitness. And now some of the names, talking about some of the names, I think Dominic Thiem, as we all know, he has already won a Grand Slam. So, and then we have Zverev, we have Tsitsipas. We saw Tsitsipas's game against Djokovic in the semifinals. It was amazing. I think he was very close to beating Djokovic, and the way he played aggressively, I think that is what he needs to take out of this tournament in for the future use. Because I think even though he lost the match, the way he kept being aggressive throughout the match, I think is definitely very encouraging for him. And in the future matches, he needs to apply the same strategy. Because if you see his matches against Nadal at the Australian Open, he was completely defeated comprehensively in that match. But I think he needs to be more aggressive on his serve, as well as more aggressive in all his ground strokes. And you saw that in the French Open against Djokovic. His backhand was also very aggressive. Tsitsipas, and his forehand was, he was just going for the winners whenever he got a chance. It's not like he was hitting the winners on the first ball, but at least he was trying to dictate play in the rally, and most of the time he was successful in doing so. So I think that it definitely impressed all of us, Tsitsipas. And then we have some up and coming players like Musetti, Sinner. Then we have Gofan, who has also played well against these guys. Then if you compare these young guys with some of the guys who have actually beaten the big three players multiple times. So if you talk about players like Del Potro, Wawrinka, Songa, Soderling. So when you talk about these guys, what is there in these guys that has actually helped them to beat the big three? So the answer is they have power in their game. First of all, they have good serves, they have power in their game, and then they have gotten the consistency as well. So if you see the initial career of Soderling or Songa or Del Potro for that matter, they all had good serves, they all had power, but they were lacking consistently. Now gradually they improved their consistency, and that is why they were able to beat these guys. So I think one aspect is definitely that they should have a weapon. Every young player who is playing, of course, they most of them have all the shots in the book, but they need to have one weapon, one strength that they can rely on, or they can damage, the opponent's mindset with that shot. Because the opponent has to feel that this, I have to be away from this shot of this specific guy. So, for example, Fernando Gonzalez. Now you know that his forehand is a lethal forehand. He hits it very well. So as an opponent, you know that I have to stay away from that shot. So that is why if you see Federer or Nadal or any other player, when they played against Fernando Gonzalez, they always made it a point that they would try to keep most balls to his backhand so that he uses the slice, and he keeps the point equal. And even if he hits his forehand, he doesn't get many shots in that area. Same is the case with Del Potro. So I mean, these players always had a specific weapon. So if you are a young player, and if you have, of course, every player has some strengths, some weapons, some favorite shots. So if you can master that shot, then definitely it can serve as a weapon. And then I think we are up to the points where we need to talk about the different aspects, the different qualities. And I think this was one of the quality that I already mentioned, is the weapon. You need to have a specific weapon, whatever it is. Maybe it's a serve and volley, maybe it's a backhand, it's a forehand, maybe it's a slice, maybe it's a drop shot. So whatever it is, but if it's your favorite shot, if it's a shot that you can rely on big points, then it gives you a starting point that okay, this is how I need to construct my point so that I am able to hit this shot. Similar is the case with all the big players. Even Nadal, he tries to construct the point in such a way that he gets the last shot on his forehand so that he can use it to finish the point. Same is the case with Federer. So I think that is definitely a big thing to look out for, is a weapon in the game. And then the next thing is having a sort of a complete game. So if you have a specific weakness in your game, whether it is the backhand or forehand or slice or anything, definitely it is going to impact your performance against the big three, because they know they always do the homework. Even if they don't do the homework, they have coaches, they have their strategists who do the homework. And even if that's not the case, even if you just go out and play against a player for the first time, it might take you a set or set and a half, but then you will understand that okay, this is the strength of the guy, this is what he's trying to hit all the time, so I need to counter that. So that is the same thing that young players also need to do, that you know that okay, Federer somehow sometimes during important moments doesn't like to hit a backhand down the line, so you need to encourage him to hit that specific shot so that you can get some of the errors. Same is the case with the big three. So if they understand that you have a weakness in your game, definitely they are going to use their abilities to hamper that weakness and to hit most of the balls to that side. So I just gave you an example of for Fernando Gonzalez and Federer, and the same example applies everywhere. So if you have a weakness, for example, you cannot volley, this is one of the specific weakness. So if you have this weakness, then you know that against Nadal on a court or on a clay, Nadal is always aware that this guy will mostly not come to the net to hit a volley. So Nadal can stay like stand 10 feet behind the baseline, and he can keep on getting the balls back, and he can, because he knows that you are not going to come to the net. And even if you are going to come to the net out of a necessity, or because Nadal has dropped the ball really short, Nadal knows that the volley might not be that good because the player is not comfortable there. So Nadal will always fancy his chances hitting the passing shot. So I think that is something that the big three have done a very good job in tactically playing well and understanding the opponent, and that is what I think the young players also need to do. So having a weapon, I mentioned as the first point. The second point is having a complete game and having a complete understanding of the opponent's strengths and weaknesses as well. So the third point I think I have already mentioned is the strategy. So they need to have the correct strategy. They need to look at the court surface, how it behaves, how the player has always, the opponent has always played there, what is the way the opponent always likes to construct the points. If it's a rhythm player like Djokovic or Nadal, you need to be able to break that rhythm. If it's Federer, then you need to sort of try to increase the rally length to sort of get into more of the points, then get to 5 all 6 all, because we know that Federer sometimes struggles to close out big points on in a tie break or like in 5 all or 6 all. So if you can get to that point with your good serve and your good service game, then definitely you can go for one or two big winners, and if you are able to make it, then it can give you the set as well. So that sort of small adjustments, small strategies, you have to consider while going for that match. Then we have the fourth point as the fitness. Of course, that matters, because if you are trying to win a Grand Slam, and if you are trying to beat one of the big three players, most of the times you are going to have to face two of the three big players, because you will face them in the semifinals and maybe again someone else in the final as well. So in that case, it's very important that your fitness is there. So the hours that you put on a practice court in the gym will definitely count, because these big three players are never down and out for the whole duration of 5 sets. So if even if you have won like a couple of sets, and in the third set you are like at 5 all and you are thinking okay, I'm just about there, it's not the case. They can still somehow get that one set, and they can consistently play at a good physical level for the 5 sets. So I think fitness is also important for the young players. And then the last point is the mindset and belief. So if you have got the mindset of someone like Kyrgios has, when playing big points, that he just goes for broke and he hits good shots and takes control of the point. I think that is very important, to take control of the point, so that if you lose the point, you can at least say that it was on my racket, I went for a winner, it just didn't happen, I tried to construct the point but it didn't happen. Or maybe the opponent hit a outright winner, so I couldn't do anything. So that sort of mindset, to take control of the point, and of course the belief that you go, even if these guys are one of the greatest of all times, even if they are part of the big three, but we know that they are 30 plus, they are at the tail end of their careers, and we have sort of a complete game. We are young, we are fit, and we have less pressure than them. So I think we need to be able to step up and take control of the point. So this sort of mindset and belief if the young players can bring into the matches, which some of them have done, and of course they have yield, they have the results to show up as well. They have beaten these guys in big tournaments. So I think this is what I would like to say about the young players, and I think they right now it we can clearly see that they are playing well and they are knocking on the door. And when these three top three guys are not there in a Grand Slam, of course we know that team or someone like Zverev or Tsitsipas will always have a chance to win the Grand Slam. And even if these guys are there with the correct strategy, being aggressive and with the correct fitness, I think they can still beat these guys and win the Grand Slam as well. So thank you guys for watching. Let me know in the comments what do you feel and what do you think it should be the strategy, should be the mindset of these young guys, and how can they actually beat one of the top three guys. Thanks for watching.